Hello, everybody, and welcome to Macro Talk 2, episode number 320 something or other. Been a lot of them. Anyhow, welcome. It's Thursday, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Central Time in the US, probably 8 o'clock at night in the UK. And today we are going to do a 2025 insect buying guide update. An update to the study that I did a few years back. But first, let me remind you, we have a Zoom coming up on Saturday, just a couple of days from now. I'm going to be doing a follow-up from Tuesday's Bellows talk, answering a bunch of questions that I've had about that. Also doing a follow-up from today's talk, where I'll be handing out some materials, electronically, of course, that will go with today's discussion. Congratulations to our winners in the competition, and many thanks again to my guest judge, Graham. Graham, I see you're here. Thanks again for your help this weekend. I think it went really well, and our winner, Angie Wallace, deserves our wholehearted congratulations. What a wonderful photograph. Very well done. An absolute textbook example of a product photograph. George Simpkins also deserves a pat on the back for getting both second and third place. Congratulations, George. This month's competition, the whole month of November, will be one leaf, dead or alive. Take that any way you want. That's the instruction. One leaf, dead or alive. See what you can do with that. December is going to be a wild card, and I'm going to let everybody submit 2 photographs. So it's going to be a complete melee, I'm sure. I am looking for guest judges both in November and December. If you have any interest in doing this, you might want to check with Graham and find out how stressful it was. But other than that, just give me your name, and I will get in touch. I will be favoring the folks who are in Patreon. That is one of their privileges, that they get first pick at that kind of thing. So if you're a Patreon member, just let me know, and we'll get you on. Okay, so a few years ago, I did a series on buying bugs commercially. And we talked about a lot of different vendors from around the world. Who was good, who wasn't so good, who had the best bugs, who had the best prices, who had the best shipping, and so on. And it's become fairly obvious to me in the last few months of looking at this stuff that there have been some real changes in how some people are doing business, and how the prices are trending and that type of thing. I thought it was a good time for an update. There are going to be some new recommendations. And a couple of other things have come out of this process that I think may be helpful to some of you. And I'll talk about that later. The original study led several viewers who hadn't previously purchased bugs to think about purchasing bugs. And some of them eventually decided they wanted to do so, but they really didn't know how. And what happened was, out of that came my decision to offer as a service to my friends that I would do a group purchasing thing where I would just order a whole bunch of bugs that would fit everybody's taste, and then split them up when they arrived and send them on to the viewers who had paid for them. Now, the idea was I would do it for my cost. I wouldn't do this to make any money. Of course, my planning wasn't that great, and I didn't take into account the shipping costs, and it ended up costing me a fair amount of money. Also, as it happened, the last time I did this, I sent one of the orders of bugs to the wrong place, to one of my viewers' former residences, and that box of bugs never showed up again. So I had to send my bugs. I didn't have to. I decided to send my bugs to that viewer. And the end result was I ended up a few $100 in the hole and no bugs. So I learned some valuable lessons from that. And as I was watching fall develop here and know that we had a harsh winter coming up, I thought, it's time to order some bugs, which I do every winter, and maybe it's time to expand this program and see who else would like to take advantage of it. Now, I do recognize that much of what I'm talking about today is really going to be directed at my U.S. Friends. My European friends are in a somewhat better position for ordering bugs, but a lot of what I'm going to be talking about is going to be specific to those who live over here. But I thought this would be a good time to take all the lessons I've learned and do this again, only on a slightly larger scale. Open it up to the whole audience, anybody who wanted to get a selection of bugs, not just a random selection of bugs, but a selection of bugs that I had curated, because I put together lists of bugs that I think would be interesting, colorful, unique, yet affordable, and send a whole selection of different from different families of organisms, so that you'd have a wide variety over the winter holiday. And I did it at, I think, at 3 different price points. And I had already done all the research for this by a couple of weeks ago, which is what gave me the idea to talk about the state of the vendor market right now. Is I'd already researched prices, I'd already made out my bug recommendation lists and the different the bug recommendations at different price points. I'd already done all of that, and was planning on announcing that today. So why am I not announcing it today? Well, there's a very good reason. I discovered, quite by accident, while doing my research, that I had not been doing it exactly the way I should have done. In fact, I was doing it completely wrong. And this is what I discovered. I discovered that when I bring insects into the country, and then split them up into groups and send them off to other people, that actually makes me an insect, not a vendor, a distributor. And to do that, I have to have a license, and I have to let certain people know, and the bugs have to come in through a special portal through Chicago, in my case. And this is problematic, and there are other costs associated with bringing them in that I wasn't aware of, and it's a pretty big deal. And the fact that I was doing this not for commercial reasons, but just as an educational thing, really, more than anything else, doesn't make any difference. Still shouldn't do it that way. So I clearly am not going to continue to do it that way. That is, even though this was relatively small amounts of insects, and none of them were on endangered species or anything like that. But I can't do it that way. So it got me thinking, what could I do that would take advantage of my knowledge of these markets and the work that I've already done that may be helpful to you. So what I am going to do is this live stream, where I am going to get you up to speed on the vendors that I think are worth dealing with right now, explaining to you changes in the pricing structure that you are going to encounter. If you've ordered before, you're going to see some big differences this year, and give you all of the information that I have. In addition, for my Patreon folks, I've got some additional stuff I'm going to give you, and I'm going to be talking about this a little bit on Saturday. But yes, I think that what we'll be doing is I'm going to provide, if you're interested, I'm going to give you my suggested bug lists, my shopping lists, that I was going to use to place orders, and you can look through them. But it's a variety. It's quite a good selection of insects at different price points, and we'll go through all of that on Saturday. But today I'm going to talk to you about what has changed, trends in pricing, what you can expect in the future, and I'll give you my list of recommended vendors. whether you're in the US or in Europe. So, what has changed in the last year or year and a half? Mostly prices and mostly shipping costs. There are new fees for bringing insects into the country. I'm not sure that they would affect the casual collector, as we would be called if we weren't bringing them in and splitting them up and sending them to other people. As individuals, we would bypass most of that. Um, and other things that have changed, I am quite convinced that the selection is way less expansive than it was even a year ago or 2 years ago. I don't know about the quality. I've only ordered a few insects this year and have been pretty satisfied with the quality. I don't see that there's been a big drop in quality. And there have been some changes in things like return policy, and free shipping is something that I think has seen some policy changes with U.S. shippers. The Big Bugs, for example, and the Butterfly Company, they now have considerably higher minimum purchase settings after which you can get free shipping. And that's definitely something that you need to figure into the mix. So let's start out by taking a look at prices, and then I'll get into to a little more about the specific companies. I decided not to do a complete price comparison because that just took weeks and weeks before. So what I did was I just took four very commonly ordered, very appealing and popular insects, and I took one species of insect and I checked the prices at four of the recommended vendors, just to see if what the prices were today, how they compared to a year ago, and more importantly, how they compared to one another. And the companies that I looked at were the Butterfly Company, which is a very well-known U.S. vendor. They have the Butterfly Company, though it is one of my recommended vendors. They have a pretty limited selection when it comes to insects. There are whole groups of insects missing from the choices. And they also sell all kinds of other products like insects in boxes and wall mounting presentation cases, things like that. Of course, their focus is mainly on butterflies. That's their thing. Their prices are okay compared to other vendors, but they've all gone up. It's got prices have gone significantly up on all these vendors, and they tend to now group a little bit closer together. But you'll see in a minute when I tell you the prices. Their shipping is quick and easy. It's easy to place the order, and you're gonna get your bugs. So it's a fairly low risk vendor, and probably one that you can count on spending a little bit more money, but getting good service, though your selection is going to be limited. Big Bugs is another U.S. company that is very popular. They've been around a while. They have a limited selection again, probably a little bit better on the insect front than the Butterfly Company, but I don't know that for sure. Their focus seems to be more on presentation collections of spread butterflies and that type of thing. They have a lot of fancy products related to insects, and they seem to be less of a scientific insect vendor, which it goes along with the fact that their selection isn't that great. But their prices are about the same as the Butterfly Company, so they're fairly reasonable in most respects. You get good quality specimens. I've always been impressed with the quality of Big Bugs. And they are also a low risk vendor. I mean, you're going to get your stuff, and they will stand behind it. Though they didn't stand behind one of my wasps, no, a bee. Probably my favorite photograph I've ever taken came from Big Bugs, and yeah, I had a hard time getting it out of the bottle, but that's another story altogether. I believe that for both the Butterfly Company and Big Bugs, we are going to see prices going up steadily into the new year. I think that is because right now the it's unclear what kind of impact the tariffs are having on this kind of product. I mean, these are normally exceptions, exclusions to extra payments when these things are brought into the country. But with the loss of the de minimis rule that was in place for smaller, less expensive packages, and with tariffs that are now kind of blanket tariffs covering everything that a company exports, I think we're going to see those prices passed on to us. I think it's inevitable. It's happening everywhere else. I know that a lot of companies are recognizing that they can't raise their prices that much and are absorbing some of the costs now. But I think that's going to change in the new year. So think about that for either of these U.S. companies. Um, the other two companies I'm going to talk about are Bugs Direct, which is a European company. I think they're based in France. I'm not 100% certain. Um, and the Insect Trade EU, which is an Eastern European organization that actually was my favorite organization in the study. I think they did the best job. We're also going to look at their prices. Bugs Direct's prices have gone way up, I believe. They have a fantastic selection, or a very good selection, maybe would be better. Their delivery is kind of slow. Coming from Europe, it takes a while. Definitely, that's going to get more expensive over time. It's easy to pay. They have a good pay portal, so paying is easy and quick. They do have a good inventory. They will talk to you and help you find what you're looking for. Um, and like I say, I'm pretty sure the prices are quite a bit higher than last year. I didn't actually order from them last year because their prices were already kind of high, but they've gone higher. Um, and I would expect that to continue to increase. They're moderately risky because these days you never know when you're going to get packages from foreign countries. They seem to be much less reliable in terms of postage and shipping than they used to be. So let me tell you what I did. I took these four companies and I just picked out the four organisms that I thought would be very popular with most people. They're on my list of recommendations at most of the price points. The first one is Chrysocroa buceti, which is a big, gorgeous jewel beetle. One that I don't have one to show you right now. I had one. I don't know what I did with it. You wouldn't think you could lose bugs, but I certainly have in the past. It's a big jewel beetle that at the Butterfly Company costs about $7.95 for one, which is pretty high, I thought. Big Bugs charges $6 for one of those, and Bugs Direct, who have started doing something I don't like, only sell them in pairs of two, and it's $27. So $13.50 per Chrysocroa buceti. Interestingly, the Insect Trade EU was kind of expensive. They didn't have a good selection. They only had a couple of Chrysocroa, and they were asking $10 for a single specimen, which struck me as very high. Those guys normally come in a good bit lower. So what we had was both of the US companies charging about the same, and both of them significantly lower than the European countries. This might have something to do with the fact that Chrysocroa this particular species, I believe, is sourced from Mexico. I don't know if that would explain why they're more expensive in Europe, but Eupholus linei, which is a blue-green weevil. I'm sure you've seen pictures of these. I've probably got one on the wall somewhere around here. Very popular Eupholus species, gorgeous weevil, very common and generally well priced. $7 at the Butterfly Company, $6 at Big Bugs, and Bugs Direct, $41 for a single specimen. Shocking. And that is one specimen. It's now, admittedly, it's an A1 specimen, but so are the Big Bugs and the Butterfly Company. So indeed are the insect trade ones, which sells the same exact Eupholus linei for $2 a piece, or 15 for $10. So if you want 15 of these insects, are only $1.50 a piece, and they are A1 graded. Now, I trust the Insect Trade EU's grading system, which I can't say for all of the European companies I've dealt with, but certainly that is a markedly better price than anything you can get anywhere else. The next insect that I looked at was Urania ripheus, which is a super popular day-flying moth from Madagascar. You've all seen it, the most beautiful, beautiful scales on that thing, multicolored. The Butterfly Company sells a single Urania ripheus for $15. That's one single unspread, unmounted, just freshly papered butterfly. Big Bugs sells them normally for $26 each, or $19.50 for a single one. Now, I believe that these are spread, but on a card, so they're basically carded, but with their wings spread. Pretty expensive. I have bought from Big Bugs the wings, just the wings, which are also fairly expensive, but their specimens are really, really nice. Bugs Direct charges, again, $27 for two of them, $13 a piece, which is slightly less than the other two, but still pretty high. Interestingly, I'd already set up this with these species picked, and Insect Trade did not have that species of Uranius. They had several others which were well priced, but they didn't have a single ripheus, which is, I left that in because that's important to know. It's a popular butterfly that a lot of people would want to get, so I don't have a price. The next one I picked, or the last one I picked for this brief comparison, was another super popular one. It's the blue carpenter wasp. I think they're from, where are they from? South America somewhere. Can't remember. But Xylocopa cerulea. Absolutely gorgeous blue. They look like they have a tiny blue jumper on. They're very, very attractive bees. The Butterfly Company sells them for $19 a piece. In freshly carded, but I don't think spread or anything like that. The Big Bugs Company charges $20 a piece. And Bugs Direct charges $34 for two, $17 a piece. So they're all within $3, except for Insect Trade, which has, you can get a packet of 4 of them, 2 of them the blue ones and 2 of them different species, for $4. No, I beg your pardon, $16. So that would be $4 a piece. Or you can get 2 of the blue ones at larger sizes for $8 a piece. So considerably cheaper, and nice looking specimens. A couple of the other things that previously appealed to me about dealing with Insect Trade EU was that they, unlike the other companies, sell to universities and to collectors and to individuals. They sell these scientific packs, that contain anywhere from 2 or 3 up to 100 of the insect that you're looking at. So you get a huge variety, and oftentimes there'll be variations within that scientific pack. So you'll have other species, and the whole idea for me as a photographer is to get as many different interesting insects to photograph as I can find. I don't really care what species they are. If they're different, I'm interested in photographing them. And those scientific packs are an incredible deal. That was how I was able to do this group buying thing in the past, was to buy several scientific packs and then split them up so that everybody got a variety. So I still favor and probably will still use the Insect Trade EU company, mostly because they have a huge selection. They have a huge selection, a huge choice. The problem is that oftentimes they have a huge selection, but none of them available. And that kind of means they really don't have a huge selection, do they? They just know the names of the bugs they don't have. And that is a little bit frustrating. You'll find page after page after page of insects that they don't have. And then now this is not, of course, with all insects. It's just with some groups. But I don't think their inventory is near as large as it used to be. Don't hold me to that, but it seems to me that there are less green boxes on their order forms than there are red ones, and that seems to be worse than it was before. Now, I actually did a little bit of research into the influence on the market and on the availability and on the pricing of insects for sale on the European continent, and how they had been influenced by a couple of things that I thought would be kind of important. The first one was the war in Ukraine, especially seeing as Insect Trade EU is an Eastern European country that is directly affected by the hostilities. I also looked at how the U.S. trade policies and what the implications of sanctions could have been on price changes, and got some very interesting and unexpected information about both of those questions. Turns out that the war in Ukraine, for example, has significantly increased prices in all of the eastern part of Europe for things like this, but it has nothing to do with the insect availability. It has everything to do with transport, and it never really occurred to me, but it costs much more to ship things into Europe or across Europe, because of having to make diversions around combat areas, and it's adding something like 20% to the cost of things like insects, and that is being passed on to the purchaser. So we probably are seeing some significant impact from the difficulties with shipping. It turns out that most places we weren't able to find any distinct link between the imposition of tariffs or other trade restrictions and the price of insects. What I did find was there have been a whole bunch of new import costs that are not related to tariffs, but are affecting, without doubt, affecting what we would pay in the U.S. for importing insects into the country. And let me see if I can find the actual name. One of them is the Fisheries and Wildlife Service has new fees that they charge. It's the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the USFWS. They consider insects, dried insects, to be wildlife. Can you believe it? yeah. It's quite the opposite of wildlife, but they do consider it under Title 50. They consider it to be wildlife, and they have to be declared using USFWS forms, which is not something we've ever had to do in the past. The critical distinction, of course, is whether we're using these bugs personally or redistributing them. And it's a little hard to say exactly what the rule is, but if there is any possibility that it would look like you were going to distribute these things, then you would have to fill out certain forms. You'd have to have the insects inspected by a wildlife officer at one of only 4 or 5 ingress ports around the country. You'd have to fill out a form 3-177 saying you're bringing wildlife in. And if you're going to do it more than once a year, you need a license, a USFWS import-export license. I can only imagine how difficult that is to get, but they cost $100. And understand that this applies for beetles, moths, weevils, everything, as well as wildebeest and eagles or whatever you're bringing in. So there's another concern that needs to be thought about, and that is the presence of any protected species in your order. Now, this becomes a problem for me when I order these scientific packs, which may contain, as I say, multiple different species from within a family, and I don't know if it's going to if the selection is going to include something that is listed on a list somewhere in Europe as being endangered in any way. Especially I'm concerned when I'm ordering anything from the Ornithoptera, like the bird wings or the Troides. Morpho butterflies are also something to be careful about. Some African Papillonidae, the swallowtail butterflies, are also you also have a real risk there in a scientific pack of getting a species that's endangered, and cicadas and some lantern flies as well. You absolutely need to avoid doing that. So I make comments about that in my ordering tips and tricks handout that I put together. This is something that you must take very seriously. And if you have any question that what you're ordering may contain a species that is not legal to trade in, you need to not order it. If there is even one specimen in a series of orders that you make, if you order 100 insects and there is one in there that is a CITES insect, CITES, then you need to have an import clearance for that. And if you don't have it, then it's not a disaster, but the amount of paperwork that you'd have to go through to clear that would be a problem, and you'd probably end up losing your whole order of insects. Now, in reality, most of the time, most of us hobbyists don't order. We order from these vendors, but we don't go through any of these steps of reporting. And that we order the insects and they arrive a month later, and end of story, no issues. And that is the way the law is designed. But if you decide to order a bunch of insects to share with your friends, which is basically what I did, or if you're doing it often, more than a couple of times a year, and if for any reason your order of insects is not being addressed to your home residents, if they're going to any business at all that you may be part of, or if they contain a large number of mixed or unknown butterflies, if any of those things happen, you will attract attention. And you just need to be aware of that. I would caution you that in this day and age, That is definitely not something you want to mess with. So if any of those things would apply to you, think seriously about going through the steps to get a license and doing everything by the book. But yeah, the the regulators are going to see that the people who are in charge of monitoring these inputs at the borders and the import points. If they see large numbers of insects coming in and then they get redistributed and sent somewhere else, then you are basically an unlicensed commercial importer, and you're in for some trouble. So the best thing to do is just not import large amounts and avoid big mixed butterfly sets, and you'll probably be just fine. So I told you what I'm planning on doing for you guys, but I will put together a buying guide for anybody who is interested in ordering some, that kind of keep you on the right track, and also explain things that might not be immediately clear if you've never ordered bugs before. I don't know how many of you are new to this, but if you are an insect photographer, it's good to know what is the difference between a spread insect and a papered insect. Um, know what you're buying. Are you buying an insect that you're going to have to clean and position? Know the difference between the grades, what an A1 grade is, and how important that is if you're going to take pictures of it. Also know for every vendor, and I was going to mention this when I was talking about the vendors, know what they mean when they say A1. An A1 is supposedly a near perfect specimen, that everything is intact, and there's no blemishes or other issues, and so on. You're getting a specimen that you can photograph, in other words. But that's not true of every vendor. There are some vendors that may be a little bit less helpful, who will use A1 to describe any insect that has not been set on fire or stamped on. I've seen some pretty horrible uh, specimens just in completely covered in a mat of fungus that were listed as A1. So it's good to know for each vendor what they mean by their grading system, and they don't all use the same grading system. So find that out ahead of time. Find out what their return policy is. Now, I'm sure that the way they think about it, especially the overseas companies, is that you are not going to want to spend the money to send back a single butterfly because it's missing an antenna. But a butterfly missing an antenna to us is a big deal, and especially if we paid $40 for a morpho butterfly that's missing body parts, we probably would want to send that back. So find out what the return policies are. I've already done it though, and I'll put it in the buying guide for anybody who's interested. Understanding that is key. I would also not buy any expensive insects. My philosophy is that there are just millions of options for inexpensive insects to photograph. If you're going to buy some already dried to take you through the winter, it doesn't matter what you get. So long as they're in good shape, you can photograph them. And it's something of a challenge to make a really ordinary insect look spectacular in a photograph. So it's a good idea to know how you are going to store your insects when they arrive, so that you know what it takes to prepare them for photography. Don't order a bunch of expensive insects and then try to figure out what you're supposed to do with them. Watch some of my videos on preparing insects before you order them, so you know to order the right insects. You're much safer with beetles than you are with butterflies. You're much safer with medium-sized insects than you are with teeny tiny ones. And some insects do not retain their colors very well. Get insects that are going to be easier to shoot. They're going to stay pretty for longer. things like buprespid jewel beetles or tiger beetles, one of my favorite. They're a little on the fragile side, but yeah, they'll last. You want these bugs to be able to get through the whole winter so that you've got something fun to photograph every day if you want to. Um, Avoid all the endangered or protected species. Every single one of them. Don't take any risks on that. And yeah, the species lists that I put together um, are are pretty much self-explanatory. I mean, they're the things that I would recommend to anybody who was getting ready to dip their toe into photographing more exotic species. These are the really photogenic ones that look awesome in pictures. They're more durable. Their legs don't fall off as easily. And from the vendors I'm recommending, you usually get good specimens. Um, so that's helpful. Let me see. I think that you know, I can probably, if anybody's interested, we could even do a small online workshop to discuss this stuff. If you're interested, but leave a note in the chat if that's something you'd like to do. If you're thinking about ordering this winter and want to spend an hour going over the specific rules and looking at the various lists, then we can do that. Just let me know. If I get enough interest, then it's something we can do. And let me see. I would also like to. I don't think we're going to have time to do it today, but I wanted to talk about what exactly does make for a good specimen, a good bug specimen. When you're looking to buy one, how can you tell what you're getting? Well, we talk. I'll run over these points very briefly. We talked about what the grading means and how important it is to understand what the grading means with your vendor, but also understand what state you want the insect to be in. I like to get my insects on a card, covered with cellophane and packed in a very light packing material. That tends to keep all of their limbs intact. It prevents them a little bit from getting squashed. Butterflies the same way. I never buy spread insects that have had their wings pinned open or their legs positioned, because I'm going to do all of that again anyway, so I don't waste the money on that. I like to get uh, freshly papered but not spread. Butterflies, definitely don't get them spread, because the way we spread the wings is not the way they would be spread for a presentation. They'll have their wings all the way out. We might want them half of the way out, as if the thing's flying. So yeah, think about that. Find out. It is absolutely appropriate for you to pick up the phone or get on a Skype call and talk to the vendor if they're in a different country, or if they're in the same country, and find out, you know, whether or not the insects you're buying are strongly colored, or if they're faded at all, or if their scales are oxidized. They will tell you. The vendors are very proud of what they do. Every one of them I've met is very helpful, and they'll tell you if this is a specimen that's worthy of photography or not. They know that kind of thing. They picked them and they carried them for that reason. So don't be afraid to do that. You also want to look for the butterflies and moths that have minimal scale loss. Even the slightest bit of scale loss makes the butterflies look unalive. Um, Looking for clean, symmetrical antennae is a very important thing. One of the things I love about Insect Trade EU is when you order an insect, you actually are looking at the photograph of the insect in its packet. So you can take that photograph and you can look at the number of limbs and the number of antennae and make sure that they're clean, and same with the tarsi, the feet. Make sure that they're all present. You don't want to you don't want to be photographing something with 4 or 5 legs. So check all of that, and pick the specimens that are going to look good at the magnifications you're most comfortable with. Don't get microscopic flower beetles to photograph if you don't have a 10x objective. I mean, pick the bugs that you are comfortable shooting because of given their size. So I don't have time to walk through the process of actually selecting specimens to buy, but I will do that if we do a workshop, because it's quite different on Insect Trade EU, because it's just very complicated. The way their page is laid out, and their ordering is even more complicated. I'll warn you of that. But yeah, we could also talk about how to read and use species codes, and how to avoid, like I was saying, the triggers with species that are restricted. Um, probably the biggest hang up that people have is not knowing how to actually do the ordering, because unlike in the US, where you can punch in a credit card number and your address is already remembered and it does everything for you, and your order's finished in 2 minutes, it's not like that at all. In fact, some of these European vendors, they have to go through your bank. They have to get the money, the funds wired over or sent over by some separate system, and then they have to check that they've got the payment and the conversion rate is appropriate, and then they send the specimens to you. It can take a while, and it can be frustrating, and the language barrier is a part of that. So it's a really good idea to know what you're getting into before you start, and I can show you how to do that if you want to. Um, Shipping delays are super common, no matter who you order from out of country. I've had some luck with South American companies that have been reasonable. I've had plenty of luck with UK companies that ship. Oh, that's where the Bugs Direct is based. They're based in the UK. Forgive me, I should have known that. But a couple of others that I have used over there in the past, their shipping is very prompt, and there's no unexplained delays. But coming from Eastern Europe, yeah, there have been some long delays, and I think some of the time the boxes are held up in customs. I know that CBP will go through some of these boxes. Nothing you can do about that, but it does delay, so you need to be aware of that. You need to have a plan for when your specimens arrive. If you're going to try ordering bugs this year, you need to know what to do when they arrive, or probably what not to do when they arrive. They're usually going to arrive in a flat cardboard box. Oh, let me grab one. I just happened to have one behind me. I could see it in the television thing. So they'll arrive in a box like this. Nothing very fancy, but it's a nice sturdy box, and there are actually some insects in there. And they'll usually be on a soft cotton with a soft cotton on top of them. And some of these, that is a very tiny, very delicate tiger beetle who has made it very well without any problems. Here is a Eupholaus, lovely weevil. Isn't it pretty? It's not the one. It's not the linii. It's something else. But you will notice one of his feet has fallen off. That's problematic, but we can put it back on. You don't need a microscope objective for that. You need a baseball bat. That is quite a large beetle. Anyway, I don't know why I thought that was important to show you that. Oh, just because of the box. You'll notice that I have not removed the cellophane or taken these insects off the card. I never, ever, ever do that until I'm ready to photograph them. They are protected like that. I may have to open the weevil up just to glue his foot back on, but most of the time you leave them in the box. Don't touch the scales of a butterfly. Don't touch the wings at all, and label the things. If you ordered a bunch of insects and they arrive with a packing list and you know what they are, put a label on them and put them in whatever little boxes you're going to use to keep them separate. Because if you say, oh, I'll label that when I photograph it, you won't remember what it is and you'll have lost the piece of paper that came with your order. Label them when they come in, and you'll be glad you did. And yeah, if you're going to photograph stuff right away when it comes in, it's perfectly reasonable to take it straight out of the box and put it into your relaxing chamber, whatever it is. So I'll put together those species lists and figure out who wants them and whether or not how to make them available to you. A couple of other places that if you're in Germany, there's a place called the Insect Collector, which I've worked with before. They seem to service mainly collectors, and I found their stuff to be really, really expensive, but very, very nice. So it's probably worth looking at if you're in Germany. Let me see. Inter-Insects. This was one that was recommended to me that I haven't actually seen. Also in Germany. They're supposedly the largest stock of insects in Europe. Yeah. Insect nets apparently have a worldwide clientele of private collectors, universities, and scientists, no photographers. And they do ship to the US. So, yeah, it's probably worth looking into. I will look into insects. I wrote this note down and forgot to check them out. But they are retail and wholesale. I'll put something in the show notes to say whether or not they're worth looking at. And ALD Entomology in France, they were one of my companies. I can't remember why they sell mostly unmounted insects and quite a good selection. But there was some reason, I think it may have been their ordering was impregnable. I did order from them, but would not recommend it. That may have changed, so let me look into them as well. This page of notes slipped through. I think that's you know what, that's enough. I think we've covered almost everything I had to say. The companies I recommend then, as of right this minute, would be Bic Bugs in the USA, Butterfly Company, and just because of how safe they are. Insect Trade EU, if you're willing to put up with the hassles, you'll get better prices, better selection. And Bugs Direct in the UK. Bugs Direct appears to be the most expensive of them all, but I've had no problem dealing with them in the past. So I have left out my Australian vendors just because of time. I've left out the vendors elsewhere in Asia, which tend to be much harder to deal with. They're never in the office, and their prices are good, but I ended up never getting any of the orders I placed, so I don't include them right now. I'm going to look here and see who's here and see if there are any questions that I can answer. Let me see. Paul's here. Paul, I hope you're feeling better, my friend. Let me see. Okay, so Harold is here from Norway. Arctic Penguin from Seattle. Graham is here. Greetings, Graham. And has everybody had a chance to see the results video from the competition from last month? It was great. I really thought that we had a fantastic selection of pictures that I got a very fair shake, and I'm happy with how the judging went, and very satisfied with the results. It was good. If you haven't had a chance to see it, do. Dimitris is here from talking about Europe from Greece, and Ingolf is here from Germany. Fantastic. Tony from Florida. Tony, I don't believe we've met, have we? If we haven't, welcome, and please come back. Roy Walker and David Brown. Angie Wallace. Congratulations, Angie. Well done. Oh, you can't stay. She's already gone, so she didn't hear me clapping. But congratulations anyway. Also to Julie, Alistair, and Ian Smith in Ontario, Canada. They don't have insects up there. It's too cold, I've heard, except for the black flies and mosquitoes. That might be unfair. David, welcome. Robert from Ocala, greetings. And get well soon, Paul. I know I should do the same thing that you just did. I just don't have the spine or the knee. So there you go. All right. Art's here. Greetings, Art. And Diane, welcome. Good to see everybody. Pierre, so good to see you, sir. It's cold, but no rain in Paris. Well, we can see if we can get some shipped over to you from the UK. I'm sure they have plenty. Just me from Transylvania. And let me see. Yes, I have checked out the Bug Church. There are a lot of other vendors that I didn't even talk about on eBay and on the internet in general. Very small vendors who have very limited selections of bugs, but some of them at very good prices. And I have bought plenty of them. I have a couple of relationships with some of these folks. And yeah, there are decent outlets out there. You just need to be careful. It's eBay after all, and you're buying insects. So yeah, just know what you're getting into. Let me see. I will tell you what. I'll talk to you, David, about Mr. Nutting, and figure out exactly what we've got going on there. Sounds good. Tony says yes to the workshop. I think it would be a good idea. Jim's got tarantulas, Madagascar, hissing cockroaches. Right. Well, that's a problem for me. I don't think I would be. I don't think I want to know anybody who keeps pet cockroaches. That's a terrifying thought. John, has anyone used their local universities for bugs? Sometimes they have them in their biology departments. I did not know that. I mean, my old biology department had bugs, but they were just in the halls. Yeah, I've never thought of that, actually, to be honest. Until fairly recently, I lived in the deep south, and it was rather easy for me to collect gorgeous insects just by walking outside. It's a little less straightforward where I am now, but anyway, that's the topic for today. If you're a Patreon person, we'll answer any questions and get caught up on all of this on Saturday. And we'll also be talking a little bit about the bellows discussion we had at the beginning of the week. So thank you, everybody, for coming. I really do appreciate your support. And yeah, I hope this was useful. I didn't get any recommendations. I've been asking for recommendations for what you go, or suggestions, what you guys want to talk about in Macro Talk and Macro Talk 2. If you come up with anything, please let me know. Shoot me a message over on the Walls app or in the next live stream. Let me know what you want to hear about. So I wish everybody a very pleasant weekend, restful and safe. And I will see you either at Pazoom on Saturday or next week. Take care and have a good one. Bye-bye. Oh, and get well soon. For those of you who need that advice, Paul. Right.